Welcome to Smart Manufacturing Mindset, where we challenge guests to think differently about manufacturing. We'll explore the nuances that hide in plain sight behind the acronyms, techno-jargon, and misinformation to get to the truths that hold real value for real people in the industry.
Hello and welcome. My name is Mike Yost. I am your host today, and I'm glad that you could join us on this next episode of the CESMII Smart Manufacturing Mindset LinkedIn Live event. In each broadcast, we challenge ourselves and our guests to think differently about smart manufacturing. In this series, we have heard from CESMII members and thought leaders on emerging technologies and industry trends, on organizational and operational dynamics, on educational and workforce programs, and most importantly, what a smart manufacturing mindset looks like. With regard to helping manufacturers move forward, CESMII is making great strides in helping to understand the value and facilitating the creation of strategic roadmaps. So today we're going to get to talk with a few people that have just completed the roadmapping training program and are now officially CESMII certified roadmap professionals. So joining me in studio today are Jim Wetzel, who's the CEO of NxGen and is the teacher of the program. Jim, welcome here.
Hey, good morning, Mike.
We also have Jeff Winter, who is the Senior Director of Manufacturing Industry Strategy with Hitachi Solutions. Welcome, Jeff.
Excited to be here.
Thanks for being here. And we have Mike Unger, who is the Focal Point Business and Executive Coach and also the CEO of the Industry 4.0 Club. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me, too.
Excellent. So these are the guys that you want to hear from, and we'll get on to the topics at hand in just a moment. But first, a few housekeeping items about this event and about CESMII. First of all, if you're not familiar with CESMII, I would certainly encourage you to get to know the organization. CESMII is a public-private partnership and is the U.S. National Institute on Smart Manufacturing. They're a membership organization as driving technology research and educational programs and helping to build the smart manufacturing ecosystem through events such as this. We would also like to thank SME, who is a partner with CESMII in helping to deliver this series. Our goal with this webinar series is to think differently, to focus on new ways of thinking, to be a modern manufacturer, to challenge ourselves. So we encourage you to contribute and be part of that conversation. We are streaming on LinkedIn Live, and we encourage you to go ahead and join the conversation, add your comments. We will do our best to incorporate those questions with our guests. If we can't do that either in the chat or through the discussion, we will definitely keep the conversation going online after the event. The event is being recorded so you can watch it at a later time. And then finally, we would encourage you to get to know CESMII online through LinkedIn. And you can learn plenty more about membership options and research in the projects and programs that are going on at CESMII.org. So with that, let's get on with the show. We're going to talk about becoming a smart manufacturing roadmap professional. And as we set the stage here, Jim, I want to talk with you, but maybe first from my perspective, just to share with folks, Jim and I have talked many times about the value of defining smart manufacturing versus framing it for yourselves. And I think that for those watching, I like to use the analogy of the definition of recycling. All four of us on the screen here might agree on that we know what recycling is, what it means, but we probably each do it differently. We have different requirements in our localities of what recycling means for us. And that's really what I think CESMII is doing here with this tool set, is helping manufacturers frame what smart manufacturing means for them. And I think that is really what is important here with the work, Jim, that you're helping lead and drive. So just wanted, if you could maybe explain to us, Jim, who Rensselaer at Work is and NxGen, and how you're working together on this training with CESMII.
Okay, thanks, Mike. This is just first of all, this is just super exciting. So we've just completed our first certification course, and it's been a very awesome, exciting experience. We executed this in partnership with CESMII, and who we is RPI and my company NxGen. So RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, is a world-renowned, recognized technology research university, and they've been around for 200 years. They created a program called RPI at Work, which is for working professionals, and they've changed their instructional model to really be project-based. So the idea, instead of having an instructor, you have a coach and a mentor. Instead of having homework, you have projects. And so what we've done is we've partnered with them because of their mindset that they have. So obviously we're talking about mindset here in this topic in general, but we partnered with them because they already have the mindset of a coach, a mentor, and being able to take the material of how you develop a roadmap and actually coach and mentor that in versus teaching and instruct that in. And so that has been a huge shift. NxGen, my company, I come from a practitioner based. So I'm not a consultant by trade. I was a manufacturer. And so everything was practitioner based.
That's fantastic. So Jeff and Mike, want to get your perspectives. Jeff, maybe you first. Can you explain your role in industry? What drew you into this course? Why did you take it?
Sure. So my name's Jeff Winter, and I'm the Senior Director of Industry Strategy for Manufacturing with Hitachi Solutions. And what that basically means is my job to help point my company in the right direction to be a world-class digital transformation solution provider. In order to be successful at that, I have to be intimately involved with what's happening in the industry, which is why I participate in so many advisory boards, industry associations, standards bodies, and research teams, so I can stay current on the latest and greatest and share those insights internally with my company as well as with other companies out there. And if you were to look at why did I want to take this, I would say there's two primary reasons. One is if you have an institute that has been created for the purpose of helping to advance manufacturing, one that is partially funded by the US government, and especially one that has created an executive council of manufacturers to better get a pulse on the state of the industry as well as the needs for manufacturing, I would argue anything they create is of interest to me. And quite frankly, should be of interest to all manufacturers. And CESMII is doing just that. So just because CESMII made this is one reason that I had interest in it, because I know what their purpose is as an institute and the reasoning that went into creating it. The second is it actually solves an industry need. I mean, I paid attention to several assessment frameworks out there, having spoken to the Industry 4.0 Maturity Center in Germany a few times, the group who certifies people and conducts Acatech's Industry 4.0 Maturity Index, and as someone who's also recently completed the SIRI training, Smart Industry Readiness Index training, I've seen that there are still some gaps out there in these assessments that they don't solve in helping companies advance their smart manufacturing Industry 4.0 journeys, especially when it comes to the company level of visioning and road mapping. And this just helps make it easier. So those are the two reasons that I was like, I'm on board. I want to do this.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And I think we'll definitely come back and hit on the points about the other frameworks and such if we have time. So, Mike, your vantage point, your perspective, why did you take the program?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So, as you mentioned earlier, I'm a business coach, and I help business leaders improve their profitability and really achieve their full potential. And in my clients, small and mid-sized manufacturers, they often have a gap in looking at their future, their strategy. And so this course really provided a great methodology that I could use to help them really achieve that potential, help them develop a roadmap, help them integrate smart manufacturing into their strategy with a focus on really being a world-class manufacturer. So for me, it was an easy decision to jump in and really learn this material with CESMII.
So Jim, how's the course delivered, and who can take it? So what's the environment like? How often are you running classes, things like that?
Yeah, so kind of the mechanism and the process is, obviously RPI is the host, and so we're using Canvas. It's a web-based system to actually do the instruction. It's 8 weeks long. We have all the material and resources online, and then we have a synchronous session once a week. Right, the first class we had it in the evening. It was a Thursday evening for 90 minutes, and it was an opportunity synchronously to review the material, get redirect, have class discussion, and so on. There's homework involved. We have use cases that the students are using as company data to actually develop assessments and focus opportunities and road mapping. And all of that is essentially navigated and executed online.
And who can take the course? Who are the folks that are signing up for this?
Well, the target audience is folks that are providing consulting and coaching on how to develop a digital strategy and a digital roadmap.
Okay, fantastic. And Mike and Jeff, how about, you've just been through the course, right? So you've successfully come out the other side. What are some of the key takeaways that you found that were most beneficial for you? Mike, you want to start?
Yeah, I think what reinforced for me, and really was just a confirmation of what, it makes a lot of sense, was that inside the road mapping process there are 6 elements, and the ones that we were talking about that typically you start with our first strategy, manufacturing strategy, and the second is to focus on culture, and those things are foundational. And what I really appreciated was the fact that sort of rings true. It's rang true when you started with continuous improvement years ago with lean. It rings true now, and I think it's really fundamental. So focusing on that, the idea that people are a key part of it also was a key part of the road mapping strategy with optimizing workforce. And then also, you typically think about smart manufacturing. Your first element can go towards the technology, but that was only one element of, are your systems well connected? So for me, it was just really it brought together several elements and really the full picture of a business. And that was what I really took away from the road mapping process that I thought was really, really valuable.
Yeah, I'd concur with that as well. I mean, whenever we talk with people about smart manufacturing, there's a time and a place to have the technology discussion. But I think that this methodology, this approach that CESMII is espousing here, where it's one of the 6 areas, it's not 5 of the 6 areas, right? It's one of the 6 things that are important. So I think that's a great insight, Mike. Jeff, how about you? What were some takeaways? And then maybe you could continue on with your earlier point. You have experience with other frameworks and such. Maybe compare and contrast or offer up some things that are unique here from the CESMII approach.
Sure. I'll start with the 4 key takeaways that I had from participating in this program. The first is, this tool really can work for any size company. And that's a testament to the way it was developed, to be able to work for a single facility, small manufacturer, to a multinational company that has dozens, if not 100 or more manufacturing sites. And I really like that it can scale quickly within the size of companies that it works with. Number 2, and this is one that I found very fascinating, was eye-opening to me, is the tool really is the only one that I know of that focuses on internal misalignment. And most of the tools out there, and this kind of answers the other part you want to go over, they focus on comparison against a defined scale, which there is an element of this too. It does have a defined scale of kind of what good looks like and how you fit on that scale. But the CESMII assessment portion of the roadmap, it likes to highlight the differences between things like, what do leadership and management think? Or what about between different departments and even between initiatives, to really show where the issues and gaps may really reside inside a company. Because what you may score high on in a capability assessment may score very low or poor on an outcome assessment of what you're actually doing right now. And that leads to my third point. This assessment focuses on both capabilities as well as outcomes. are you actually achieving your intended results weighs just as much as is your company capable of taking advantage of new technology, as an example, which is more of a capability assessment that other assessments focus on. And the last one that I really like is it gives a three horizon approach, a now, next, and future. And most assessments that I've seen out there really focus on the immediate priority without really showing how that fits into a longer term vision. So those are like the four main takeaways that I had. And then to answer your other question of kind of how does this compare to what I've seen out there, a lot of the other, I'm going to call it tools, I'm going to choose my word, precisely here, is because they are more assessment-based tools at the heart of it. And I would argue this one at the heart of it is more of a road mapping tool. And now it has an assessment as a component of that, because you always need to be able to evaluate where you're at. But the emphasis is more on the roadmap. And this is the only one I'm really aware of that does focus at a company-wide level. The other ones are more designed by the entity of evaluation as a facility or a department or a function of the company rather than the company overall. That's probably the biggest difference that I see. And one of the things I find is interesting is, so I actually conducted a LinkedIn study a couple of weeks ago on what's the current biggest struggle that companies have, we'll call it on their digital transformation towards Industry 4.0. 16% said visioning, answering what the company should do. 15% said strategy, how they should do it. 41% said justification and buy-in, and 28% said prioritization, which is kind of where to do it, which shows that a lot of people can't explain internally necessarily like how they can convince their company to do it. They have a vague idea of what they want to do and a high level of getting there. And this tool does help with that justification and buy-in to help with the storytelling. Storytelling was a big part of what we learned in this process to how to develop the answers and communicate those answers internally. So that's my short answer for kind of the main takeaways and at a high level how it compared.
Mike, if I can jump on to or add to what Jeff was saying.
Absolutely.
What I found really interesting as well is the roadmap. We leave with with actions, things to do to make progress. Some of the assessments that I've seen out there, you leave with a final report, okay? And that's a very different contrast. And so one of the most exciting things for me is when we're finished with this process, the company has actions to take to go down that road on the journey. And that's so valuable. I think and the process itself and the engagement on the part of the company, they're very much sort of invested in that roadmap and in making those actions happen and become reality.
So fantastic input, guys. And it sounds like there's a lot of positive things about the tool set. Jim, you've been working with this tool set before getting to the point of having this formal training class. You've been testing this. You've been working with folks. You've been doing some on-the-job training with some others to help teach them on these tools and stuff. So could you maybe talk about how you're seeing this from an implementation perspective? Jeff mentioned misalignment inside of a company, right? So how is that handled? Is that, the tool set is set to highlight those things? And I guess, how are you seeing people work through a situation where there is misalignment or misunderstanding in an organization?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I mean, we'll talk all hour on that topic. Let me go back and then move forward. So going back just a little bit to what Jeff and Mike said, this topic of misalignment, when I had done some research around why are digital projects failing? Why is this transformation so difficult? Why are people stuck getting out of the blocks? When there's a lot of good solutions, there's a lot of good capability building. And the number one answer was misalignment. And so we said, we absolutely have to address that. We absolutely have to try to understand what the broader organization is thinking, kind of use crowdsource mentality to easily reach into the organization and find out all thoughts. And when we applied that into a road mapping process versus just an assessment process, and to what Mike talked about, it's action oriented. What am I going to do now? What am I going to do next? What am I going to do in the future? you find out that maybe the first thing I'm going to do is stop some of the things that I've been doing. So as in practice, the first thing you led with was, so how's it going? What's real life look like? Real life looks like people having heard about taking some sort of a test, some sort of a assessment, whether it be any of the models that Jeff talked about or other consultants come in and do some sort of evaluation. And they've probably already, before they've even done that step, they've probably already been to trade shows and maybe have picked out some favorite vendors that they want to go and look at. Something piqued their interest. They may have already even bought some of these packages and then struggled with getting value out of them. But they go, this pilot purgatory. I've started, but I get stuck. And so one of the things the process does is kind of go, whoa, whoa, we need to rapidly go through the assessment, the alignment, the focus, and the road mapping before you start purchasing. This, ready, aim, fire. A lot of these organizations have started off by fire, they execute. Because in manufacturing, what are we just fabulous at doing? World-class manufacturers are fabulous at executing. They wouldn't be in manufacturing. Okay. What they're probably weaker on is planning and strategy. And so one of the things we purposely tried to figure out how to do is, when you talk about planning, strategy, and vision, in whatever order you want to take those, normally if you're talking to a plant person, their eyes roll. Because this sounds like PowerPoints. It sounds like it's going to take forever. And it's stopping me from doing that thing that I wanted to do that's my pain point today. And we've said, what if we could go through all that stuff and do the right stuff and stack that up in a very fast manner? We can go at the pace of you. And if the pace of you is slow, that's fine. But if the pace of you is, I need this immediately, how can we get this done so that what's happening in the now column, what do I need to do now, is well thought out and doesn't take a year from now to get that answer. So when we're working with companies, the first thing we kind of have to do is go, whoa, let's hold the horses a bit, because everyone's already started something. Let's give it a good looking and really get in to find out what the alignment looks like, what it doesn't look like. And let's start looking at the opportunities and developing an actual roadmap for them.
So let's switch to the other guys here. You both have industry-facing roles, right? So Mike, you lead the Industry 4.0 Club, and Jeff, you're very prominent in industry as a thought leader and doing the work you were already referencing earlier. So how important do you guys think it is? Maybe Mike, you first. In your view, that industry have a tool set like this, that there be some common approach, some language that manufacturers have and the whole ecosystem has, that we can define smart manufacturing and work on alignment like Jim was just talking about.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It's I think it's really important that we have a common language. Otherwise, how can we really we know today it sounds kind of crazy, but we have a common language. We're speaking in English, so we can all communicate and understand each other, understand what we mean. And it's the same thing for working in manufacturing, on smart manufacturing. Without the common language, we may not have a common understanding of where we're trying to go, what we're trying to accomplish. And today there's a lot of folks who've tried to define that. Different vendors have defined that. But I think the more that we can rely on an institute like CESMII to help us create that framework, create that language, the more effective we'll be at really getting to the goal, which is really improving our competitiveness across manufacturing in the U.S. So it's really important, I think, Mike, that we take that approach.
Yeah, Jeff mentioned earlier about being interested in what CESMII has to say, because CESMII is the authority, right? The National Institute on Smart Manufacturing. So, Jeff, your thoughts on this from an industry-facing perspective?
Sure. Well, it's one of the areas that actually is I want to say a little bit exciting for me is big buzzword terms out there like digital transformation, industry 4.0, smart manufacturing. There is no universally accepted or agreed upon definition, which can be good and bad, but it can more times be bad if you don't have a core definition within your organization. And it's even something inside my own company we need to have standardized, so we're advertising it the same way as to what it means. And I always like to use, there's two famous studies out there that kind of help illustrate this point. According to Get Smarter, 35% of companies view digital transformation as people-centric, but 32% view it as tech-centric. That's a fundamental, massive difference in the approach that you're going to take, the vision, the strategy, just off that one statistic. But then Baker McKinsey did another study that found that 69% of organizations define digital transformation as a tool for improving process efficiency. Only 23% view it as a tool for developing new ways of selling products and services, and only 8% think of it as a tool for developing new business models. Once again, it further proves the fact that not everyone agrees on it, even within a company. So having a set of standard definitions help companies like mine be able to even answer when customers ask, which is all the time, I don't know where to start, and I don't necessarily know how to approach it. I would view it as the art of the possible is the vision of what Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing can do. And in theory, that should be the same for every company. There is one basic vision of where we're all going. We need to understand that. But the art of the practical is unique to every organization. How does that apply to your specific company? And companies are yearning for help to figure out how to standardize the process of figuring that out and the process of implementing. And this is a very helpful tool, just even for me, to be able to help answer that to the thousands of times I get asked it in a year is how and where do I start?
Yeah. And that's why I made the analogy earlier about the recycling definition, right? Like you've got to know what this means for you in practice for it to be real. Right. So, Jim, maybe you want to comment back on the conversation with the group here about the importance of this language and writing the book.
Well, it's exactly what both gentlemen have said. You know, when you go on the internet and there's all this stuff to read, you go into trade shows and there's this stuff that people are marketing. It gets confusing as to what is being sold or what is being talked about. And so getting on the same page really does help when they say, oh, I get that. Yeah, that's exactly what we've been trying to do. I didn't know that that's what it was called. I didn't know that's what it was referenced to. So there is a lot of power in just having it name the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, how about if we stick with you here for a minute, Jim, because I know the guys are just through the training program themselves, but you've been working with manufacturers, right, and other facilitators to create these roadmaps. Mm-hmm. Can you share any notable achievements or anything that's standing out, any highlights that you can share of actually seeing these roadmaps created? Any success stories you could share?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't share company name and some of the detail kinds of stuff behind that. But I want to go back to maybe something I said at the beginning, because this has been powerful. I'll give you two examples. Mm-hmm. It's around getting unstuck. Mm-hmm. So how do you get started? How do you get over this? I don't know where to start. So you're staring at a white page and saying, I heard about digital transformation. I read about it. I heard about smart manufacturing. I heard about Industry 4.0. I attended some stuff. Now what? And prior to CESMII having invested in developing a framework, it's go at your own pace. It's figure it out, right? Or hire a consulting firm to help you figure it out, right? So the idea behind developing a roadmap framework, it gives companies and consultants a process to follow that is robust. And like Jeff said, it can go from small to large and so on. So you're looking at give an example of a small company we worked with. There was no way they could develop a roadmap of digital transformation on their own. There's just absolutely no way. And by bringing in the CESMII framework as a consultant into that facility and walking them through managed activities, how you do assessment, let's get alignment on these topics. Let's look under the covers and look under the hood and see what's going on. Let's talk about their future state. Let's plant the flag. Let's figure out what I need to do now, next, in the future to get there. Became an accelerated process for them to follow that they could participate in. So now you have a company that has been vulnerable, that said we need to improve. They don't know how to achieve it, but they now see a process that allows them to achieve it, that the consultant is actually following and giving them guidance along the way. Here's what we're going to do now. Here's what we're going to do next. Here's what we're going to do in the future around our steps and our processes. And so what ended up transpiring, and this is true in the small and in the large companies that we've been working with, you can almost describe the man hours that it takes to get from here to there. This meeting, we're going to review the assessment results. We're going to try to get alignment across the organization. This meeting, we're going to do that. Then we're going to take a look at the shop floor, and we're going to do, so it's a very prescribed process that allows them to feel good that like Mike said earlier, at the end of the day, it's not a PowerPoint that you've got in a report that you've got. It's a set of actions and projects and portfolios that you now have to go work on. And that's been very exciting.
How about getting the rest of the organization involved? Because I know we run into folks all the time that are put on point by the organization to go, figure out what smart manufacturing means for them. And a lot of people in the organization don't necessarily think they have a role in it, that somebody else is doing it. But this process you're talking about, and Jeff highlighted, that you're pulling in the entire organization, right?
Yeah, so that's different, right? So that's a difference maker. So a lot of times in the beginning part of the process is just a handful of people are providing contribution of where that organization is and where their future state is. And you haven't really embraced the opinions of all, or the thought of all, or the challenges of all. And so one of my coaching elements is that, hey, when you've just reached out and expanded your response requests to be a broader audience, you've just now committed to them on a path. When they don't know that someone in the front office is actually developing a strategy and a plan, then they just don't know what's going on, and they're not committed or motivated to actually do that. As soon as you ask them for their opinion, guess what you're on the hook for? Some response.
Yeah.
So people look at this and go, oh, we can just start, we can ask these 3 people. I go, no. If you ask these 50 people, now you're on the hook to give them a response to what are you doing with the input that you gave them. And quite frankly, that has been a very good way to be inclusive. So we can say, yeah, this 50 people or 100 people or 1,000 people that you reached out to are now part of your team that's on the journey with you.
Yeah. I think we're all learning, not even just in industry, but overall, we're learning how to be digital, what life looks like to have access to new digital tools and things like that. So I think that points to the fact, Jim, that we all have to learn and be a part of this. So that's a pretty powerful thing. Let me turn back to Mike and Jeff. You just taken the program, so you're certified professionals. What advice would you give to those who are considering enrolling into this course? Mike, you want to go first?
Thanks, Mike. So, a lot of companies and a lot of folks are bombarded by technology and vendors, and who do I ask first? What I do next? And what this really changes the whole optic of that. So if you're not sure how to answer that question, take a moment, step back, and enroll in the course, because what you're going to learn is that you start with what the business needs are. And then you work your way through. And as we've talked about during this time together, We look at the alignment of the organization, and then develop a plan and a roadmap, and then develop actions. And what happens is, instead of thinking about starting from the technology perspective, you start from a company perspective. So if you're out there and you're not sure, you need to be involved in this, you need to be engaged in helping your clients or your company get started on smart manufacturing, but the technologies are allowing you, take a step back, take the course, and really it'll give you that insight into really how to go from where the companies are through to then understanding what kind of technology area you need to be engaged with. So for me, that's really the advice I would share is this is the best way to get started on that journey by taking the class.
Excellent. Jeff, how about you? What would you say to folks that are considering the program?
Mine are going to be totally different, coming at it from a kind of a different viewpoint. One of the things I want to actually share that makes this a little unique, if you're considering it, is it's more taught like a university level class, rather than a lot of certifications out there will have a 2, 3, 5 day, all day, just like mind meld of information. And that's harder to even usually sign up for, get the time off to have 5 days off to learn about an entirely new framework. But someone just completed their MBA last year and took over 20 classes on Canvas. I can tell you this matches the expectations of what you expect from a college level class, and the way it's conducted, the way it's hosted, the way it's tracked, the way that you have live lessons, and then the way that you have homework and you share that homework and get feedback on it. So because it's been elongated to 8 weeks instead of, like I said, a 3 or 5 day class, it allows you to dive deeper into the actual subject. And so what I encourage for people is come prepared to make sure that you're thinking about this as to how it's going to impact you in your profession, because you're going to have 8 weeks to start to ask your questions, to get advice and group feedback, to work in your intricacies into this process as you're learning how to do it, but also walk away with how to perform it. And that's something that I give advice and kudos to the program for allowing that to happen, because this mainly focus on the roadmap development, and then they give you the overview of how to do the implementation and the verification, validation on the back end. But if you know that that's next, you can go into it knowing how to work on those other parts, so you can provide more value than what's even offered by the certification itself. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would let people know if they're considering this, is the way that the class is conducted is really good and more unique compared to others. And think of it more like an evening level, nighttime class that you can take, so it can fit nicely into your schedule and your job requirements.
Well, it's exciting to hear. It's exciting to hear that we're have the proper language and framework and approach to educate at scale, because I think that's critical to industry where we need to go. So we've been talking here for a good long while, folks, and I think we're going to start to wind it down. So we'll work it backwards. We'll go Jeff, and then Mike, and then Jim. This theme for this series is all around a smart manufacturing mindset, right? And thinking differently. So we're always trying to answer the question about what's different. So starting with you, Jeff, what do you think is different about what CESMII is doing here, and why should people take notice?
It's a great question. I'm going to probably answer a little bit differently than most others part of this, but one of the things I like to highlight that I don't think is fully appreciated is understanding what CESMII is focusing on and the value that provides the industry, especially as it talks about thinking differently as smart manufacturing. Because of their mission, their purpose, I would argue they're focusing more on the gaps that are out there and the hard parts. Whereas a lot of other companies, especially for-profit companies, industry groups, or other institutes might shy away from the big, difficult subjects because they're not either the flashiest or quick turnaround, the high profile, the high ROI initiatives. We all know the success rate of some of those is low. They're focusing on the hardest parts to start with. And so they focus on the foundations. They focus on the technical level foundations with some of the stuff that they're working on, as well as the organizational foundational elements that are necessary. And that is one of the key ways that companies can be enabled to do all the cool things that you see out there from the thousands of companies that are offering cool Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing solutions. CESMII is really focusing on enabling your company to be able to use all those things that are out there.
Great insights. Mike, how about you? What do you think is different here about this approach?
Well, I hit it on earlier, and I think it's really the foundation of starting with the business needs first, candidly. To me, that instead of having a technology and figuring out what problem I'm going to solve with it, I start with, what am I trying to achieve in my business? A lot of companies don't even know that long-term view, but what am I helping them figure that out? But what am I trying to achieve in my business, and then applying, developing a roadmap to help achieve that. And to me, that's it. It sounds funny to say that that's innovative, but it's certainly not fundamental in today's world right now. So that's what I find that's really important. And I think what I appreciate about that is your first thought when you think about CESMII and Smart Manufacturing Innovation Institute, you're thinking, okay, we're going to talk technology, but in fact, no, we're going to talk about solving your business needs. So I find that really quite cool. Excellent.
And Jim, how about you? What would you tell folks is different about what CESMII is doing here at this program?
Well, it's hard to top Jeff and Mike, because I think there's a lot in what both of them said. Yeah. Yes, the class and the framework and the spirit of CESMII, in fact, is about democratizing this to all. So, having small, medium, and large companies have their business objectives understood, having that aligned to a strategy and a plan, and then executing that through some form of digital transformation is what this is all about, and putting that into a cohesive way. So kind of maybe what's different is this is an end-to-end approach versus just a survey or just a exploration or just a vision statement. It's really trying to go end to end, regardless of size.
Yeah, and I think what's unique, what's different is we're really working here to establish a language for everybody, right? And we're focused on education and facilitating, and I think that's really, really powerful. So, Jim, just one last question here as we go to close here. Appreciate the time from all of you and the inputs. How do people find out more about the classes and register for the next class? Where do you point people?
Yeah, so kind of the home site of this obviously is going to be at CESMII. So on the CESMII site, there is a whole road mapping section, and there'll be a linkage to the course as well. Also, the specific course for the certification is also on RPI's site at RPI at Work, and people can register directly there, so they can go kind of either place. And the other thing I just don't want to be remiss on is, this has been a partnership. So this has been a huge partnership to get this course put together between CESMII, in particular Conrad Leva, who's not on this call right now, but I want to shout out to Conrad, and then my partners at RPI, and then the NxGen group. So it's been a three-way set of folks to put this content and this process together.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate that. And if I'm not mistaken, the next course starts mid-April. Is that right? April 15th?
Yeah, April 15th. Mm-hmm.
Outstanding. Excellent. Well, good. Well, I would like to thank everybody who joined us here today. I would like to thank Mike and Jeff and Jim for not only being here with us today and sharing your insights, but also for investing the time into taking the program and then what's to come, like what you're going to continue to do moving forward here with industry. And I would also like to thank CESMII again for being a partner in delivering these webinars with us, and to hopefully instill the right mindset, a smart manufacturing mindset. So just remind you again that if you don't know CESMII, please follow them on LinkedIn, check them out at CESMII.org. You can stream previous versions of the events, and this event will be posted on Apple Music or Spotify. And you can join us again next month for our next event in the series. We typically hold these events the last Tuesday of every month. So we invite you to join us again on Tuesday, April 30th. And until then, we remind you that when you think of smart manufacturing, think differently. Thanks, everybody.